What's up everyone, welcome back to the channel. Today we're going to be discussing who are the big four of skate punk music. Not pop punk, not ska punk, not hardcore punk, but specifically skate punk. That 90s and 2000s baggy pants, baggy cargo pants, baggy shorts with loose fitting t-shirts and big comfortable sneakers or skate shoes aesthetic. The soundtrack to that video game saga combined with slim boards and small wheels and picnic tables. And it's difficult defining what exactly is a skate punk band because there are definitely a lot of punk subgenres which could fall under this anyway. Like I said, you've got like the hardcore punk and the heavier bands such as Bad Brains, the Cro-Mags, Circle Jerks and Black Flag, for example. You got the 80s and 90s West Coast mainstream revival bands like Bad Religion, the Offspring, Goldfinger, NOFX, Pennywise. And you got the straight up pop punk because at one point Blink-182 were very much a skate punk band, and a lot of people would describe MXPX as well as a skate punk band. Members from those bands such as Tom DeLonge have ties to the skateboard industry and have done interviews in skateboard magazines before. But not just that, if someone like me, I was born in 1991, I go to a festival, let's say Download Festival, and I get talking to someone 15-20 years older than me, and I've done this before, I'll say to them, just making small talk, who are you seeing today? They might say Prophets of Rage or whoever's playing back in 2017, 2018. They'll say to me, who are you seeing? I'll be like, oh, I might go see Good Charlotte actually, that would be nice, nostalgic. And they'll go, oh yeah, that skate punk band. Even though Good Charlotte are very far from a skate punk band, they're more of a mainstream pop punk band. It just goes to show like how influential and how big this genre was 20 to 30 years ago. Straight off the bat, I'm obviously going to disqualify Goldfinger, Blink-182 and the Offspring. Blink-182 because they're more of the godfathers of pop punk. They were a skate punk band initially when they started. They had a real skate punk aesthetic, but they're definitely more of a pop punk band. They would not fall under the skate punk banner. Goldfinger are more that sort of 90s mainstream-ish ska punk combined with punk rock movement. The Offspring, I just described them as more of just a mainstream punk band, like a punk band, a punk rock band and a pop rock band who happen to go pretty darn mainstream and have a real successful career, but not skate punk. So if you enjoy these videos and you enjoy my music news, reviews and general chit chats, then please do hit the subscribe button. It is the most helpful thing that you can do for the channel. So we all know who the big four of metal are. You've got Metallica, Megadeth, Slayer, and Anthrax. So let's start with the Metallica, the biggest of the group. The band with the mainstream success, yet still have a devoted legion of fans who attend their shows 40 years later. The band in which both the boomers, but then the younger generation, people my age, and even people quite a lot younger will be into. The band who are overall just so familiar when you go to any festival, whether it be a punk rock festival or a big festival, you see them on the bill and you're like, that's a familiar name, even though skate punk is quite a subgenre. I had a hard time deciding between NOFX and Bad Religion for this spot, because both of these bands have been such entry-level artists for some people. They're the type of band who people will hear on a soundtrack or they'll see at a festival, and then it will open up this huge array, this huge bottomless pit of pop punk and punk rock and hardcore punk and skate punk bands that they'll eventually get into. Both of these bands regularly play UK festivals, which I grew up going to with my dad. Both of them actually have record labels attached to the band. These record labels sign and produce so many good artists that I'm sure you've heard of. And these bands have actually had their fair share of mainstream success, appearing on TV shows, having their music on a variety of soundtracks, whether that be video games and movies. But I'm gonna give this the #1 spot to Bad Religion for two reasons. Reason number one, they've just been around a few years longer and they just have a few more fans. They were also highly influential. I would say more so than NOFX, and this is really highlighted by Epitaph Records, run by guitar player Brett. This has to be one of the most heavy-hitting record labels there is, which in fact NOFX used to be signed to before they founded Fat Records. Some bands have really found their home and really become established due to Epitaph Records, Pennywise, Millencolin, Alkaline Trio, Descendants, and even though some bands like Operation Ivy were already very, very big, I think that starting Rancid and then them signing to Epitaph really kickstarted their career as well. And that, I think, is what cements Bad Religion as the godfathers of skate punk. Bad Religion took that Ramones sound, but added this riffier West Coast vibe to it. A little bit more melodic, very, very different subject matter, but still, if you do listen to early Bad Religion stuff, it is a bit heavier, it's a bit more grimy, and it's just straight up what skate punk should be about. Which leaves NOFX, obviously. Band number 2, the Megadeth of the group. Everything that I've said about Bad Religion should not negate the impact that NOFX has, because it doesn't matter what size festival you go to. If you go to a big festival like Reading Festival, or if you go to a small sort of more niche festivals such as Slam Dunk Festival or one of the many festivals that the USA has, I've lost count, you will see firsthand the crowd interaction and the response to their music. And it doesn't matter on the size of the festival or the type of the crowd. The crowd are so into it, the crowd will see their name on the bill and they will flock to that tent or to that stage where NOFX are playing. In fact, at one point, I'm pretty sure there was a festival in the UK which had a whole tent dedicated to NOFX called the Punk in Drublic stage. So you can really tell how universally loved they are. They don't just have a cult following, they are a legendary band. They're more punk and punk rock than they are skate punk, but they still have such close ties to the skate punk world and they're so influential to every skate punk band that has ever existed, and a bunch of other pop punk bands as well. Tom DeLonge, he mentioned NOFX and Pennywise as being such a huge influence on him, along with the Descendants as well. NOFX have released 14 solid studio albums, most notably Punk in Drublic, Pump Up the Volume, and The War on Errorism. And the label Fat Records has a pretty solid roster, including Lagwagon. Plus, Fat Mike is pretty involved with Me First and the Gimme Gimmes. He's not the most involved member in that project, but that's obviously a highly sought after and highly successful project. A really, really solid, very universally loved touring band there as well. I could go on, but yeah, NOFX are more than deserving of this spot. I can't think of anyone else who have that many fans, but also have their foot in the door of the skate punk world whilst also being so influential to other punk bands. Band number 3, the Slayer of the group, the band who are so about the music and have really close ties with the whole music scene, yet aren't the most successful. Originally, I was going to give this spot to Pennywise or perhaps the Descendants, mainly because of these bands' influence on some of the biggest bands today, like I mentioned, Blink-182. There's also the Vandals. They've had a great lineup of musicians since 1989, including every single band on planet Earth's drummer, Josh Freeze. You got No Use for a Name, you got Strung Out, but the band that I landed on is actually a pretty strange choice, you might think, but it'll all make sense to you once you listen to their music and think, damn, yeah, this was the soundtrack of the 90s and the early 2000s. This band are certainly renowned, they're certainly popular, they're certainly successful and have a great history, but they haven't been getting a lot of attention the last 2 decades, mainly due to the fact that they went on, I think, 2 hiatuses. And that band is Lagwagon. Strange choice, I know, but if you search on most skate punk playlists, they will definitely be there, particularly due to their May 16 song, which was on Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 2, and I think was probably the fan favorite of that whole album when it comes to the punk music on that album. Lagwagon have inspired other successful bands like Yellowcard and are, most importantly, all about the music, especially singer Joey Cape. Their sound and their history is skate punk to its core, even right down to the way they dress. What makes Joey Cape so legendary, apart from the fact that I just love the songs that he wrote, and I'm sure some of you guys do as well? Well, I would say he's probably the most involved musician, or the most involved member of Me First and the Gimme Gimmes as well, so that's pretty cool. He's had an array of side projects and not only influenced a bunch of bands, but he's actually worked as a producer. He's a real hardcore producer and has been for the last decade or so. His company, 1 Week Records, is a really great concept. It's basically a recording studio where you go and you stay at the recording studio for a whole week, and within the space of 1 week you record 10 songs. Now this is great. This is DIY. This is rough, this is punk. That's so cool. Sleeping at the studio, staying there and getting 10 songs done in 7 days. With the amount of takes it gets to get a good song, plus the engineering, the mastering, to get 10 songs in 1 week. Sure, you could maybe do that at other studios, but it's unlikely that's going to happen. Some records, especially big major label records, can take 2 to 3 months. Look at Blink-182's Take Off Your Pants and Jacket, for example. So the fact that you can get 10 songs and they're pretty solid and it's done in 1 week, and then they promote the album for you as well, they help you promote it, really cool concept. So yeah, Joey's all about the music. Lagwagon, like, I can't think of like a more solid skate punk band. The way they dress, the music they make, the soundtracks they've been on, their general sound in general, it just is skate punk. There's just something about it. It's not pop punk, it's not punk rock, it's not hardcore punk, it is skate punk. That is the skate punk sound. Band number 4, the Anthrax of the group, the slightly goofier ones, the ones with an interesting career, the sort of underdogs. The band that I'm about to mention, they are skate punk through and through, just like Lagwagon. They're a bit punk rock, they're a bit pop punk, but for sure they are skate punk. They even skateboard themselves. They put out a DVD where they have footage on it of them skateboarding. They met through skateboarding, some of them. They post pictures on their Instagram of them skateboarding on a regular basis. Some members have actually DJ'd at skateboarding competitions before, so you can't really get more skate punk than that. Did they wear the cargo pants? Yes. Were they on a Tony Hawk's Pro Skater soundtrack? Yes. Are they American? No. They are Sweden's Millencolin. And Millencolin, the name Millencolin actually comes from the skateboard trick Melancholy. So, sound like Chandler Bing. Can you be more skate park than that? Naming your band after a skateboard trick. I love this band. I have a soft spot for this band. As soon as I heard No Cigar, I went and picked up the album Penny Bridge Pioneers. I love the songs Fox, Duck Pond, Penguins and Polar Bears. I love the Kingwood album. That's actually one of my favorite albums of all time. This band, I would say, have more of a cult following. They're certainly not mainstream in the eyes of the punk rock or the skate punk world. They do have a solid following. Anytime they do tours, whether it be Australia, Europe, or America, they're getting a lot of love from the community. They fit right in with that Lagwagon, Pennywise sort of community. Pennywise almost made it on the list, but you could actually say they're way more influential, and you could definitely say that they're more popular. You could definitely say that. They just aren't skate punk through and through. They're more punk rock, same as Refused and No Use for a Name. But Millencolin and Lagwagon, that is just the soundtrack right there. Those two bands especially. Add Bad Religion to that mix and a bit of NOFX, and then some of those other punk rock bands I mentioned. That's like skate punk at its absolute core. Listen to some of Millencolin's newer stuff if you really dig that 90s and 2000s sound. I love some of their newer stuff. Songs like SOS, Chameleon, those are some real bangers. In fact, I go out running a lot. I do ultra marathons and stuff. Some of my favorite music to listen to during those training runs is some uplifting skate punk, particularly that with a positive message, and that's certainly what Millencolin have. And if you listen to podcasts these days with some of the newer pop punk bands such as Knuckle Puck, that sort of sad boy easy core pop punk which has come out the last 10 years, a bunch of them will also describe Millencolin as an influence. So they're still influential. It's what inspired pop punk, and then pop punk is what inspired easycore and everything that we're listening to these days. Well, that's it guys. That's all from me for today. I had a good time talking about that. I hope you enjoyed this video. Let me know your thoughts down in the comments section. Who should I have added to this list, or who would you add to this list? Do you disagree with something I say, and would you replace one of the bands on this list? Guys, thanks so much for all your support and love. One more time, hit the subscribe button, and I'll see you in the next video.